Dali, dear. They drank champagne the day you died. There had been a storm. A cloud was hanging over the bay like an old worn blanket that had frayed at the edges, the sun's light penetrating in shafts that dappled the sea. The stone streets were clean, washed by the afternoon rain. The air smelled sweet. The smell of a virgin, you would have said, or the smell of buggery. Something funny. How you loathed all smells but your own. Small birds darted in circles, swirling overhead like poignant memories. I listened for the nightingales, but there were none. As the light slowly vanished, the cafes on the waterfront filled with men who had stories to tell. "What did he ever do for the village?" I heard someone say. "When we needed him, he turned his back on us." A terrible weight had lifted from their shoulders. They drank champagne and laughed their fisherman laughs. Warm breath misted the windows. Two boys on motorcycles roared away along the coast road, and the silence that followed made it feel as if the whole world was empty. I walked through the winter chill, down the track from the olive groves, round by the house. I could see the eggs on the roof, the camel in shadow, the old fishing boat with a cypress tree growing through its hull. The waves were black. Night had come in Cadaqués. It was the 23rd of January, 1989. The sun would rise tomorrow. The funeral service 2 days later was at the church in Figueras, where you were christened 84 years before. It is a modest church, like many in small Spanish towns, Gothic in style, not age, built to oppress. Melancholic saints whose deeds we learned at Sunday school stared down from the walls, the Saviour below a sheet of glass, poorly painted, and Mary, her golden heart bursting from her breast amidst a circle of protruding daggers, a scene that must have moved your eye and playful mind long before you gasped in wonder at the marvels of Hieronymus Bosch. Like the church, the service was a dismal affair conducted by a weary man with scant hair and all the feeling of the statues carved from stone. It was unworthy of Salvador Dali. Love him, hate him, he was what was and deserved something else, not better, but other. "I practice but do not believe," you said, and I have seen your words quoted many times since. You were proudly orthodox, Cattolico Apostolico Romano, you told the world, but the only time I saw you in God's house was for the music concerts in Cadaqués, and even then you crept out to visit me at the art gallery I had opened nearby. I had called it Clé de Lique. You gave me the name, the key to Dali, you explained, and no one quite understood. The coffin sat before the altar, uncommonly plain, dark wood, narrow at the feet. Just right for a Catalan bourgeois. "I have betrayed my class," you gravely intoned. "I have joined the aristocracy." They made you the Marquess de Poubol. You loved it. But a duke you would rather have been. I whispered the words of the litany. They meant nothing to me. The priest spoke of the other world. The smell of damp and unwashed clothing mingled with the melting wax of the candles. A man in front of me was coughing, blowing his nose, sneezing into a handkerchief. You would have moved away, terrified of germs, not of what people may have said or thought. "Qui hablen," let them talk. I want everyone to talk of Dali, even if they speak well of him. The coffin was carried out by men in uniform, and the mob followed your progress across the street to Torre Galate, the annex to the Teatro Museo, where you had envisioned rows of scholars from all over the world, their heads bowed into books of Darwinian philosophy. I could see the house where you were born, and the hospital where you died, the church and the museum across the way forming the four corners of the box from which you sprang and into which you were now recoiling. The journey was as short as it was long, as brief as history will make it eternal. I wore a red tie and a purple shirt that matched the drapes in that cramped, forlorn room where you lay in state like a comic king, a waxworks dummy with creased white skin and a fallen moustache that had withered. The men in grey suits had taken over. They knew nothing of your needs for date juice, fresh cream, the satiny semen of the tuberose. Always wear a tie, Carlitos. It is the symbol of success. That red tie whispered anarchy, anarchy on a plain of royal purple silk. You would have raised a wicked eyebrow in subtle acknowledgement.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.